Good afternoon, folks. Robert Chappell, Executive Editor, Madison365, with your daily update for Wednesday, December 8th. We finally have some data. We have not had any COVID data other than hospitalizations for this entire week. But we did get an update today that this is all, this data issue is related to just the state having some computer problems, basically, is what it sounds like. But the numbers we got today, with the grain of salt that they're processing data and they're going to have to catch up a little bit from being sort of offline for a couple of days. So some of these numbers might be artificially on the low side, which is why they're not as awful as one of the reasons maybe it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. But there's one number that I'll tell you that makes me feel like even if these are a little bit low, that's okay. So the reporting today, 3,519 new cases, which puts our 7-day average at 3,155. Now, as of Friday, it was 3,148. Okay, so the 7-day average only went up by 7. Now, there might be some positive cases that haven't been plugged into that data yet, as they're still doing the catch up. So it might be actually higher than that, or it might be revised upward retroactively. But for now, that's the number we have. But the number that gives me hope that even if more positive cases get added, that might be okay, because the 7-day positive test rate has fallen from 13.7 last week, a week ago, December 1st. It was 13.7. Today it's 11.6. Still really, really high. But a high number on the way down is better than a high number on the way up. Does that make sense? So 11.6 on the positive test rate is very bad, very high. We need that to be below 3. But it has improved, which means one of two things, or both of two things. Number one, there's more testing happening. So if you have more testing and relatively the same number of cases, then your positive test rate is going to come down. We have relatively the same number of cases that we did, late last week on an average 7-day basis. So I would interpret a lower positive test rate to mean that there's just more testing happening and more testing being processed. Or the other factor is that you could just, your number of cases might be coming down, which a low number of cases, or a number of cases being reported that is artificially low, would actually pull this number down a little bit. So again, big grain of salt that this number might get revised upward, but the fact that it's down 2 full points, I don't think that's just data. I think it might, maybe in reality it's like 12.1. So I'm trying to be a little bit optimistic here, is what I'm telling you. Right now, the 7-day death average is still too high. It's 23 now. It was 24 as of Friday. Now it's 23. 33 new confirmed deaths yesterday. Our total death toll now 9,237. Think of it this way: 23 deaths per day over 7 days. That's going on 150, more than 150 deaths in the past week. So that puts us 9,237. 1,023 probable deaths. So if you count probables, we're well over 10,000 deaths right now. So that's not great either. Hospitalizations look a little bit better today. Not much better, a little bit better. We're at 1,611 today, currently hospitalized. That's actually 19 fewer than yesterday. Okay, so maybe a tiny bit of relief. The ICU population is the same today as it was yesterday, 418. So that stayed steady. So basically, the way I would say this is hospitalization numbers have leveled off for the day. Right? Now, hospitalizations, we did have data Monday and Tuesday. And this is up more or less up to date. They're not going to be adding to these to catch up. It is still true that 97% of ICU beds in the state are occupied. And 98% of intermediate care beds are occupied. Now, there's no talk at this moment. With I listened in on the governor's briefing today. There's no talk of a field hospital like they did last year. Remember, they put together that overflow facility in State Fair Park in Milwaukee. They could have housed up to 500 people. They never had more than 20. Right? It got to the point where it was necessary for some patients, but it was always 6 and 10 and 20. And then the tide turned in the spring and it wasn't needed anymore. There's no federal funding for that, for a new one of those. However, the state has put together like relief staffing teams. So the state is going to employ healthcare workers to deploy to hospitals around the state to provide some extra staffing. Because sometimes the capacity issues at hospitals is not about the physical rooms, it's about the staff to take care of people. Right. So the state today said that they already have requests from 270 hospitals or medical facilities around the state for some of that help. And they'll also be seeking federal help with that as well. So rather than build a overflow hospital, what they're doing is helping current, existing hospitals round out their staff a little bit. So not only can they care for more people, but they can give the staff some rest, which is necessary. Right? You can't have people working 24 hours all the time. So that's this is an interesting question. Where do they come from? I actually don't know. That was one of the questions I was going to ask. I was like in a meeting while the briefing was going on, so I wasn't able to be on the briefing to ask a question. But that's a question I can pose to them: is where are they getting them from? I don't know. I don't think they're going to be like National Guard or anything like that. I think they're just going to hire folks. But I'll find out for you. I'll ask. Good question. Thank you. So that is, tune in tomorrow. I'll try to have an answer for you. Yeah, this is definitely true. This is definitely true that medical workers are in short supply everywhere. So where's the state going to just magically come up with some? We'll find out. All you got to do is ask. All right. So that's the COVID situation. Again, not great, not as bad as it could be, not as bad as I feared it would be. We'll see tomorrow or the next day as the numbers continue, as the data continues to get processed, if today's numbers get revised upward at all. But stick with us. I got some other news for you, local and national news for you on the other side of the break here. We'll be back. Don't scroll away. Give us 30 seconds. We'll be right back. All right, thank you for sticking with us. On the site this morning, our feature story is a profile on Cecilia Miranda, there on the left. She was honored recently by the Bolivian Society of Retirees in Wisconsin. I think I said that right. For her contributions to celebrating and keeping alive Bolivian culture here in Wisconsin. She spoke with Dave Dahmer. It's a terrific story. Lots of great photos. But one thing that I've learned, and that we should be obvious, but isn't always, that Latino culture is many different cultures, right? So she's being honored not for celebrating and promoting Latino culture, but specifically Bolivian culture. She came from Bolivia at 13, went through a period of assimilation, which was kind of a thing earlier, a couple of decades ago. The idea was like just assimilate, speak English, don't speak Spanish, be American. And now we have a more broad sense of what American means, I hope. But she ended up meeting up with some other Bolivian young people when she was like 18, 19 at International Festival here in Madison, and kind of re-embraced it, right? And now has become this leader in celebrating and preserving Bolivian culture for folks here in Madison and Wisconsin she's running these dance dance groups, arts and culture groups, while incidentally working over 60 hours a week as a nursing assistant at UW Health. So she was honored with this sort of lifetime award for contributions to Bolivian culture. And the story is really great. And a lot of great photos, like I said, and that's up at Madison365.org right now. A couple items we'll mention from on the national level. State authorities in Alabama are investigating the death of a former New Orleans Saints defensive lineman, Glenn Foster Jr., who's 31 now. He played NFL football for like 2.5 years, and then went into business for himself. And he died Monday near Tuscaloosa, Alabama, in police custody. He was arrested Saturday after he was pulled over for speeding. They tried to stop him for speeding, and he led them on a chase, apparently, and he was arrested after that. 2 days later, died in police custody. So state police are investigating that death in Alabama. Also in national news today, in Charlottesville, you remember not too long ago, the statue of General Robert E. Lee was removed from Charlottesville, which was the sort of the impetus of the Charlottesville, Unite the Right protests or whatever. But that statue, after being removed a couple years ago, it was there for about 100 years, actually. The city council there in Charlottesville voted 4-0 on Tuesday to hand over the statue to a local, to the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center, which is a museum and a cultural center housed in what was once Charlottesville only high school for Black students. And they're going to take it and they're going to melt it down and create new art out of the bronze, which sort of feels appropriate. So that's the news I have for you today. I have one other item to mention. We just got some really good news, and I'm going to take a second here to pull up the right thing here. But as you know, I've been saying this for a while now, that it's our fundraising season, right? We're a nonprofit. We're a legit 501c3 nonprofit newsroom, right? So any donations we get are tax deductible. We do this not to make money, but because it's public good. We decided 6 years ago that we wanted to do something good for this community. We wanted to connect people of color, wanted to amplify voices from communities of color in ways that they haven't been amplified before. And we knew that we need community support to do that. So we launched as a nonprofit. Now, I've been telling you since early November that if you make a donation now, it can be doubled, because the Institute for Nonprofit News runs this thing called News Match, where you everything we get between November 1st and December 31st, we tell them how much we made, or how much was donated, and they write us a check for that amount. No strings attached, no questions asked. It's very easy. This year, we're trying to get some more sustainable funding and sign folks like you up for monthly memberships. So rather than give us $60 now, give us $5 a month for the year, right? That way we have more steady cash flow income, But if you do that, Newsmatch will double your whole year's worth of contribution. So you start with $5 a month now. You give us $5 now, $5 in January, $5 in February. They give us $60 right now. Now, yesterday, we got some even better news. That there's an organization called Loud Hound. It's a family foundation that's working to support journalism, democracy, and climate justice. And they have come in and said, we also will match all donations to Madison365. They're not doing this for every newsroom every nonprofit newsroom. Newsmatch is like 400 newsrooms across the country. This is just a select group that were selected, right? It's not something we applied for. We didn't ask for this, but these folks came in, stepped up and said, we like what you're doing, Madison365, and we are going to match up to $20,000. Now, in the past, since November 1st, we've raised a little over 9,000. Right? So we're going to get another 9,000 for sure. And we're going to get another 9,000 from these folks. But if we can get to 20,000, they'll give us another 10 or so, right? So let's do it. Right now, you join the FAM. That's our membership program. You give us a one-time donation. That's fine. You join the FAM and give us a monthly donation. That's fine. Whatever you give us, 3 times the impact. You give us $10 right now. You just give us a one-time $10 donation. We get 30. You give us a one-time $25 donation. We get 75. There are people out there in the country, people with money, who understand the importance of what we're doing here, of local nonprofit media, who understand why it's important that you are informed, right? They understand the service that we're providing our community, and but they want you to support it. So they're going to incentivize rather than, the Loudhound folks could just write us a check for $20,000, right? But they want you involved. They want our local community involved. They're not local to Madison, but they want local people. They want you to support what we do. And they're going to match it. And INN is going to match it, right? So now's the time. If you've been thinking about it, if you've been like, yeah, I should kick a few bucks in, now's the time to do it because we get 3 times. Everything you give us, 3 times. So if that's not incentive, I don't know what is. So thank you for listening to my pitch again. It won't be the last time. And we will we'll be back tomorrow. Hope to have an answer for DJ's question. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful evening. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
This is 365 Media.